everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Once More with Feelings. I'm Michelle.
And I'm Beth. And we're going to experience the emotional roller coaster of the movies that we watch and discuss. And we're going to see where that leads us. And hey, does feminism fit in somewhere along the way?
I actually kind of forgot about that when we were watching this one. Because usually I have that in the back of my head, not this time.
I did. And I'm not going to give any spoilers away, but it's possible. It's just possible it may pass.
It actually, I think it might actually.
But let's see.
Squinting sideways,
Let's see where it goes.
Okay. So this week, my friends, we watched the 1996 movie, The Frighteners. And if you were as surprised as I was, Peter Jackson directed this one. I didn't really know who Peter Jackson was back in the day. So looking back, I'm like, oh.
It was co-written by Fran Walsh.
Yes, which is his partner.
Right. This film stars Michael J. Fox as Frank Bannister, an architect who gains the ability to see and communicate with ghosts after his wife's murder. He uses his abilities to con people by pretending to exorcise ghosts that he himself has sent to haunt them. However, when a malevolent spirit resembling the Grim Reaper starts killing both the living and the dead, Frank must uncover the truth and stop the supernatural killer. Dun dun dun!
Woo! This is such a this is such an I want to say underrated. I do know Peter Jackson wanted it to be released at Halloween, but the studios pushed for a summer.
Did not happen, yes.
And I do think that because it was a summer release, it didn't do as well. I think it could have done better if it had been a Halloween release. It's not a scary movie, but it is a scary movie. So like it's scary.
Kinda, yeah.
It's my level of scary movie. I mean, I will look. I listen to podcasts about true crime and serial killers.
Very morbid things.
Yes, because I love morbid. And I do love scary books. I want a book to scare the living piss out of me. But I don't like to watch scary movies. I can control it in a book. I cannot control, and I hate, and especially and I am not a squeamish person, but I hate fucking bloody scary movies. They just do nothing for me. And it's nothing against people who like them. I just don't find it's not entertaining to me.
So did you see Saw?
No. I can't bring myself to watch Saw. I can't. Never seen Hostel.
Making a joke, but I like that you're going with it, so we're doing that. Let's just go that way.
I mean, I tried to give him a chance, but I just have an issue with it. I can't control the scary. And I don't like that. But I'm afraid of the dark. I am a grown-ass woman who is afraid of the dark.
I don't like gore So this is something you can really, I think, sink your teeth into for an analogy.
Okay.
For movies, scary movies, it's much like eating things that are hot.
Okay.
You and I both like hot foods. We like spicy foods, but not for the sake of just being spicy. We want it to have that flavor, and it should have the right kind of heat for what you're eating.
Not a front of the mouth heat. It's got to be the back of the mouth heat, because otherwise it's just not enjoyable.
And that's what we enjoy about scary movies.
Back of the mouth heat.
It is. We want the fear that builds, the thing that builds behind you.
Yeah.
And it's never up front in your face. It's behind you. Because when you walk into a room and it's completely dark and you see nothing, you're not worried about what may be in front of you.
Oh, I am.
It's what you fear might be lurking behind you.
I'm afraid of anything that's in front of, behind, inside, outside. Oh, no, I know.
In the sense, that's what you're worried about.
Oh, yeah.
So you don't want the gore. You don't want to see the gore. You want the gore to be implied.
Yeah, no, I get that. And like movies that I do find entertaining, not because they're scary, because I do like a good jump scare. I like a jump scare. That's the scare that makes me go, okay, I got that. That gives you, that's my adrenaline rush and what I get out of these movies.
Going through the haunted house, yes.
We've been watching New Girl again. And So, like, for most people who, like, most people watch the Conjuring movies and get nothing out of them because it's like, they're not really scary movies. I enjoy them because they're not overly scary.
And I enjoy them because they build the tension.
They do. And that's the kind of, and that's the anxiety that not in your stomach, that's what I don't enjoy that in life, but in a scary movie, that's where I enjoy it. It's that anxiety, the anxious feeling you start to get because you know something is gonna happen. And if it doesn't happen, that's even, to me, that's a scary moment too, because you don't know when it's gonna happen. But in general, I just cannot enjoy, as much as I would love to, I cannot bring myself to enjoy most scary movies. And I feel like I'm missing out, and I know I am, but unless there's ghosts involved, I really don't want to, I can't. So yeah, unless it's a scary movie, unless it's like a ghost kind of scary movie, I just can't bring myself to enjoy it. Mm-hmm. I try. It just doesn't happen. But Frighteners is not frightening.
It has its moments. It had its moments.
It had its moments.
Back in the day, in 1996, picture it, CGI was somewhat newish.
It wasn't so bad.
And even when you're cheaping out, like some movies, I'm not saying this one, I'm saying some movies, much like this one, that look exactly like this, some of those movies cheaped out on CGI effects.
Oh, yeah.
And at the time, this effect was really like the big thing, having, the shapes, the background to be part of a shape.
Yeah.
And it really used that to like great effect in this in 1996. But I think you're going to find that it doesn't really hold up today, of course, and nor should it.
No, it should not. I liked the ghosts, but they were very similar to the Patrick Swayze ghost. It's that whole, see-through person, but kind of not see-through person.
This is what I had written down earlier, and I did not use it, but this movie is the Disney version of The Conjuring in a way.
It really is.
Or maybe, it's so Disney-fied in a way that it's just kind of comical, even on accident.
Yes.
And a lot of things are played for comedy, but it is quite an accident that a lot of this is humorous.
The jokes were not jokes. Like, they were there, but not, like, supposed to be slapsticky, ha 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 funny.
The ghosts were slapsticky in a lot of ways.
They were.
Tropey.
Yeah. So the ghosts are played by John Austen. If you don't know who that is, think Gomez Addams, the original, and think dad of Mackenzie and stepdad of Sean Austen.
Damn straight.
Raised some good boys there, well, at least with Sean. I love me some Sean Austen. And if you ever get the chance, and if you want your heart to truly melt.
He's Samwise.
Well, yep. And yes, and go onto YouTube and look up Storyline Online and look up A Bad Case of the Stripes with Sean Austen reading it. It is so sweet. It really is. My students, we watch that a lot. The other two ghosts are Kai McBride as Cyrus and a beloved favorite of mine. Now, don't get me wrong. I am going to pontificate the wonders that is Michael J. Fox in a little while, because my teenage heartthrob that he was, it's deep and miles long. But I had this weird little crush on Jim Fife. Now, he is a dorky guy. But in 1988-89, he was on a show on HBO called Encyclopedia. And it was a variety show, and they would pick a letter, and they would do a whole episode about it. And honestly, the Leif Erikson song lives in my head rent-free. And if you don't know it, Leif, oh Leif Erikson, the Norse explorer. Okay, it's really worth it. and so
I'm not sure you're selling it.
I don't really care. So in 1988-89, let me see, where was I? I was in high school. So I just started high school. I always had this thing about, I don't know. I always liked the different looking people, but Jim Fife was not a traditional, like, gorgeous guy. He was just a dorky guy with cute, big blue eyes. And I just loved him on that show. And it and then I saw him later on in, now I did not know he was one of the Scoleri brothers in Ghostbusters 2. Because they're in costume, so I didn't know that.
How would you know?
I know, exactly. But when I was looking up what he had seen, if he did anything else that I knew, that was one of them.
Okay.
But he was in the remake of Dark Shadows. He was Ben and Willie Loomis, which I believe were twins. I don't know. It's been many years since I watched Dark Shadows. That remake was really good, and I was so excited to see him in it. So yeah, Jim Fife, one of my young crushes.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I'll keep going on. So, I don't know if I don't know.
So let me go back to my original question. You can pontificate again on something else for an extended amount of time.
Sorry, if you don't interrupt me, I'm going to just go off.
How did you feel?
How did I? Well, you didn't actually ask me how I felt yet, but now I'm going to ask you.
Never let me get there.
I never let you get there.
It was the whole point of me asking the question that you interrupted and then continued on a bent.
You got to interrupt me because I will keep going.
You started it.
I'm sorry. Okay. How did I feel about this when I first saw it?
Yes.
Well, first, I didn't know Jim was in it.
Okay. I think we got that.
I went into this as a Michael J. Fox movie with ghosts. I remember the trailers were not like scary, but they were interesting, and I've always been I always liked ghost movies. So, yeah, I don't really remember how feeling anything other than excited to see a Michael J. Fox movie. And it came out in 96. Where was I in 96? Oh, I already had baby by then, so I was not going out to the movies to see this. I saw this at home. I think we might have rented it. We might have rented it from Blockbuster.
That's actually how we saw it.
Okay.
Was renting it from Blockbuster. Yeah, we just went to a store and actually rented a movie and brought it home with us physically.
Yes.
And I think it was on VHS.
VHS, yep. Because it was before DVDs.
I'm pretty sure it was VHS.
Yep.
Well, no, they had a choice. You could get them DVD or you could get VHS. We didn't have a DVD player.
I don't think we had a DVD player yet either. So
so we got the VHS.
Yeah. I told you my mom worked at a video store once. It was a little dive when before Blockbuster became Blockbuster, and there were the little video stores. Yeah, right. It was at the corner of where my parents' restaurant was. It was cool.
Okay.
One parent owns a pizza place, and the other one not owned, but worked at a video store. So yeah, it was nice.
So I don't have any real memory of how I felt about Frighteners. Mm-hmm. I can't imagine I was hyped to see it just because it kind of sounded a little bit,
I mean, it sounded dorky.
I mean, because I think House was out at this time. House 2 actually was out at this time, I think.
Don't remember.
I could be wrong.
Yeah, I don't remember.
But it seemed like a lot of movies were playing on this angle at the time for some reason.
Yeah.
I seem to, to remember that.
Yeah, I don't remember when House 2 came out. I don't think I saw House 2. I didn't see that in the movies either.
Well, I didn't see that in the theater. I saw it on Cinemax, I believe.
And why is House 2 so much better?
Because House
87.
Yeah, so
it was like almost 10 years later, or 9 years later, yeah.
So House sets up the series, and House 2 is just written better. It uses better characters.
Yeah.
So I think it just survived based on having a good comedic cast.
It did.
Having good writing.
And that's how I fell in love with this Alfa Romeo Spider for like a minute and a half of my life. But also, so our tie-in to House 2, which isn't really a tie-in, but John Astin's character, the judge, looks like the old man in House 2. I don't know if that was intentional or not, and I really wish I'd thought about looking that up.
I think it's just whenever they go with someone old, it's an old prospector-looking man.
Yeah, who we are introduced to in the beginning of the movie when the ghost hound dog, which we never see again after that season.
Yeah, you never see the ghost hound dog.
He steals.
What does that mean? if you can see a dog ghost, but you don't see any other dog ghost, does that mean that some dogs do go to heaven?
All dogs go to heaven.
So that does make sense that you don't see that dog anymore.
Yes, because maybe he
Dogs
followed.
go to heaven.
I know they do, because they're such good babies.
Or to a heaven-like plane.
Yes, whatever you believe in, but they all go to the good place. So the funny thing about the judge is that Michael J. Fox kept calling him Doc. He kept slipping up and calling him Doc, like, Back to the Future.
Right.
So that was a Michael J. Foxism. But yeah. So how did you feel though? So you weren't really hyped about it?
I don't know.
Yeah, like,
I really
I
can't
don't
remember in '96 what I was caring about.
Yeah, I had a 2-year-old.
Because if I went to a movie, that's going to a place to see something. It's a special event.
Yeah.
Renting a video in 1996 was just another day.
Yeah, and I think that's why I don't...
Your biggest event is trying to return it and not get charged for it.
I think that's why I don't remember exactly how I felt, other than I knew I wanted to see it, but I knew it was not something I was in a rush to see, and I'd eventually see it on DVD. I mean, VHS.
Which makes you ask, why did we choose this film?
Why? Because when we did see
we
it...
remembered?
We remembered?
We remembered what about it?
It was good. It was surprisingly good.
That's what I remembered about it, is that I enjoyed that whole, there's a play in this entire film that I think is done by a lot of things, but maybe not done as well, and I think it may be accidentally, or maybe not. Maybe Peter Jackson is just insightful when he directed this.
And he wrote it, so,
Right.
and he was part of the writing crew.
But when we're talking about humans who are alive, the living world and the ghosts, even though it's very Disney-fied, there's something that I think it's the degradation or the decay of the ghosts as they keep existing that kind of puts me into it almost induces its own stress. You see all of the ghosts as they start out the film decaying a little bit more every time they do something.
They lose their ectoplasm.
Or it dries up or something like that. But even the asshole, I forget his name.
Oh,
Ray? No, not Ray.
I didn't write him down because I don't know why.
Yeah, Ray.
Okay.
Peter Dobson.
Okay.
Who plays Ray Linsky, who is one of the first deaths we see in the movie as far as character-wise.
Yeah.
Or primary characters. So Ray dies, and he comes out basically exactly like he looked in life.
Yeah.
Except he's got a little ectoplasm kind of shining on his face and stuff.
Yes, and it seems like it eventually leaks from eyes, nose, and mouth.
But that's as it continues.
Yes.
As the movie continues, and it seems like it jumps a couple of days. And it goes through several days in this movie, so it's not all in one day. In fact, Ray was alive at the very start, and then he was dead later and being buried, all within seemingly just the same day. But it was
not.
We know the time moved forward because he obviously got other calls.
Well, also, Frank, which is Michael J. Fox's character, gets called to Ray's house because of... So really, we need to explain a little bit about Frank.
Frank Bannister.
Frank Bannister.
Who is a...
Well, I don't know. I mean, he's a psychic investigator.
Yeah, but what was he before? Frank Bannister.
Was he a carpenter? Because he
No.
was building a house.
He's not a carpenter, though. I
Bannister.
guess that's what they expect.
Is he a Hulk?
He was an architect.
Architect.
Yes. Frank Bannister was an architect.
Oh my God! Come on, Peter. I expect better of you. So my thoughts are all over the place,
It could be
y'all.
Frank Drafter.
Oh my Lord! So he is in a car accident with his wife years before, and
Another Bannister.
and she does not survive the car accident, but there's a mysterious number 13 carved into her forehead.
Right.
And his box cutter is missing. And
that's the backstory.
That's the backstory
in the really long monologue from.
Wasn't it the police officer?
Jeffrey Combs.
Oh,
Milton
yeah.
Dammers.
From Dammers,
I was trying to remember his name. So Milton, who is an FBI agent.
Yeah, he's
weird. Who has spent his life in cults trying to infiltrate them, has gone quite crazy.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a lot of mental issues, but he's also very much, I guess, respected in the field of craziness.
Guess so.
Because a sheriff out in the middle of nowhere calls him in.
Because he can't prove. So Frank can see ghosts after that accident. He can see ghosts. And when he
slightly bumped his head.
Yes, and he has a couple of ghost friends. That'll come next week. And he has a couple of ghost friends, and and that would be Stuart and Cyrus and the judge. And they kind of go into houses and they wreak havoc and then leave one of Frank's calling cards, and then the people find it, call him, and
it's really on the nose.
It's basically
this is like Ghostbusters, but in a
scam. Like if the ghosts were working with the humans to make money.
It's a very scammy thing, and it's all like the card is presented as the thing is happening.
Yeah, so it's a little like,
no one's gonna. And the thing is, it's a lot like one of the movies we've seen recently in which they just believe.
Mm-hmm.
People just believe that ghosts exist.
It's happening.
The minute he says there's ghosts,
they're like, oh my God.
It.
Well, Ray didn't really. Even though he got conked in the head with a frying pan out of nowhere, he's still sitting there going, this is ridiculous. This is ridiculous. So Frank can see ghosts, and all of a sudden he notices a 36 or 37 on Ray's.
I think it's 36.
There's a number on Ray's head. It's glowing, and he's like, "What's with the number?" And nobody else can see the number, so
it's the first time he's seen it.
It's the first time he's seen it, and it disappears, and he's like, "I gotta go," and he leaves, and then shortly thereafter, Ray's ghost appears. So he's starting to realize that these numbers glowing on people's head, and it really sinks in when he goes and talks to Ray's widow,
right,
Lucy, and Lucy, he's talking through, the ghost is talking through Frank, and she wants to know what's going on. Turns out Ray invested $16,000 of hers and made a bad investment and lost everything. And she was kind of pissy.
So this scene where Frank is sitting there really at a date with...
with Lucy.
With Lucy. So Frank is on a date with Lucy while the ghost... And it's not seen as a date, but it's very much set up like a date.
There's flowers and everything.
Yeah, it very much interacts like a date. So if anyone were looking out from the outside of that situation, seeing those two together, it would look exactly like they're on a date. And I think
day after her husband was buried.
And I think that's very intentional.
Yes, no, it was I think so.
I think that's kind of the way they want you to see that from, is this is kind of a date, because they get involved emotionally, not physically, but emotionally, very quickly with each other.
Yes.
And they're both doing that trauma bonding in a way. I think Michael J. Fox, who playing Frank, is really giving that, I don't know, tortured soul thing all through. He doesn't care about... I understand that kind of, that level of depression.
Yeah.
That you just let everything go to shit around you and you're just surviving. You're not thriving, you're just surviving. But this scene very much evokes that scene in Groundhog Day with Andie MacDowell, where she's sitting there trying to convince, I can't remember the character names and stuff, but Bill Murray, that he needs to see a doctor or whatever. And he's like, I'm basically a god.
Yeah.
Small g, not a big G. And that scene pretty much acts a lot like that. That's kind of when they confirm the like in the situation.
Yeah.
when the girl starts liking the guy.
Yeah.
Not falling in love.
No.
Just realizing there's something there.
And there, he's kind. He's obviously been through a lot, but he's kind. And I don't know about every woman in the world, but kindness goes a long way, especially when you have been with somebody who is very short and not in height, but like short-tempered and short, just goes off the handle for nothing. And Ray does that. Ray, she's pissed about the money, and he's like, of course this is what she's going to be mad at. Da, 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 da. It's like,
he calls her a bitch.
And he's fucking dead, and she can't hear him, and he calls her a bitch. And here is, Frank sitting there going, yeah.
I'm not going to tell her that. I'm not
telling her that.
And I'm not going to lie to her.
No, he went and told her. He said, he screwed the money. And he
didn't say it maliciously.
No.
He said it in a very kind, I'm very sorry, but this is what happened way.
Mm-hmm. And he'd already been calm and collective when he came into their house. And he was kind of scamming them, but she didn't know that.
He was really getting out. He was scamming them in a way.
But it was a way so he didn't have to pay for the damages he caused because he crashed into their fence the day before.
Yeah, it was trying to get out of the cost of the fence and the gnome.
Yes.
That he ran over.
So
after he hit the fence again coming back and ran over more gnomes.
Exactly. So knowing that he can see dead people and knowing that he can see these numbers, he goes off into the bathroom at the restaurant and he sees a gentleman come in, and that gentleman has a number on his head. And then he notices that the walls do this really fucking cool thing. And I think this is why I wanted to see this movie. It's the bodies, the image of the body pushing out on the walls. I know it's stupid CGI, but at that time, that was new to me.
Well, that's what I was saying at the start of this.
Yeah.
Is that is what this movie focused on as its thing. Mm-hmm. Funny ghosts, slightly funny ghosts, or at least very tropey ghosts, and then this effect.
Yes. And so he tries to help the guy, and the guy ends up dying. Because what's happening is, like, they're having, like, heart attacks out of nowhere. Their bodies are completely...
That's what it's seeming like to the living world.
Yes.
That they're having a heart attack.
What's happening is...
Frank can see that it's this Reaper-like figure shoving its hand in the chest and squeezing their heart to death.
Yes. So that is, like, basically what's going on. Is these numbers appear, the person gets killed by this Reaper guy, and he's now trying to figure it out.
Well, and before all of this, you get a scene of a woman in a big old mansion or a big old house.
Yeah, that's how the movie starts.
Getting her ass kicked. She is getting her ass kicked by this ghost-like figure that is doing what you said, like coming out of the floor and the walls, coming out of the carpet.
And chasing her all around the house.
Trying to choke her.
Yep.
All sorts of stuff. And then the mother, the older woman that's in the house, shoots it with a shotgun.
Yes.
And that's what you see at the start that kind of sets up the crazy that's coming.
Yes. And so Lucy's a doctor, and she goes to that house later on, and to sew up the wound on the girl's hand. And the mother was like, "Well, you're not our doctor," and she's like, "I just started there, and he's not, he's busy. The other doctor's busy, and I'm here to do this." And it is the house of Patricia Ann, and Patricia Ann is played by Dee Wallace. Side note, Dee Wallace's husband died during this film.
Oh, shit.
He died of a blood clot. And so she was flying back and forth from New Zealand to the United States. And Peter Jackson paid for all of her plane tickets.
Yeah, that's messed up.
And that was just such a kindness that even though she's, Dee Wallace...
That must have been very hard for her to do this movie.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Because it deals in... That's what this movie is about. It's not about the ghosts. It's really not. It is kind of, in a way. A lot of this is just that thing of, when you lose someone you deeply love, that it's that grief that haunts you. Mm-hmm.
It haunts Frank.
So, and Frank feels that he's responsible, but even without that, there's that grief that lingers as the ghost, and for Frank, he can see these ghosts as it's all an allegory for grief and loss. It's a pretty easy step to get to. It is not subtle.
No.
In what it's trying to get at.
He had been building a house for his wife, and she had wanted a garden in a certain location, and he paved it over and made a basketball court. And then that day she dies.
But he had long hair and was wearing a zoot suit. So that's why. The suit was very zoot suity and fit. It was very odd. But yeah, he had this huge oversized suit, which I guess was a 90s style-ish.
It's weird.
And he had the long hair.
Yeah.
Which always looks weird on him.
I know. He does look good with long hair.
Yeah, it's always very odd to see him with long hair. I don't like it.
But his wife dies. They have an argument about it. They go do something in the car, and he drives off. And then the rumors are that he had been drinking and that they had an argument about the paving over that area. But when we meet Frank and he's trying to survive, the house is still not finished. He can't. He's in a state of stagnancy. I mean, is that a word, stagnancy?
Stagnation.
Stagnation. He is in a state of stagnation. He cannot move forward. He is stuck. He's stuck in his grief. He is stuck in his life.
Right.
And all he can do are do these ghost hunts, quote unquote, air bunnies. So I do say so a lot. We were pointing that out earlier, and I'm like, geez, I do say so a lot.
So in case you're wondering where this was shot, just so you know, it was shot in New Zealand.
Surprise.
I'd never noticed that.
I didn't either.
Until now.
But
this last time watching it, I'm like, this is so obviously not anywhere in the U.S.
No. But also didn't think twice about Peter Jackson, but I really didn't know who Peter Jackson was. So he did this movie shortly thereafter doing Heavenly Creatures.
Right.
And as our clue for this was Danny Elfman he did the music for it. And he did it without even knowing what the movie was about because he liked Heavenly Creatures so much. He said, I don't give a crap what you're doing. I am doing your next movie.
Yeah.
So that's part of...
And that was, again, Fran Walsh and Peter Jackson both wrote Heavenly Creatures for 1994.
Yes. And so we were talking about how there's a lot of details in this movie that maybe would have been ignored in most movies that are in the same vein. Michael J. Fox insisted on doing his own stunts and broke his foot.
Yeah.
Yeah, so while he was recouping, Peter Jackson said it was great because it gave us time to fine-tune the writing.
But it also meant he wasn't really agile on his feet during that time.
No, and so here's my time to talk about how much I love Michael J. Fox. I do. I have since I was a kid. Watching him on Family Ties, I loved him. So his character being Alex P. Keaton, and we have a child who's named very similar, not exactly that, but it's very similar. And I didn't even think about it until years later when my mother pointed it out to me. He's always belonged in my heart. And I can't even explain it why I really just love him. But I hate that I watched the documentary about him. He's human and he fucked up and he did make amends for all of the shit that he's done. But his wife, Tracy, I love their love story. I love that they met on Family Ties. I love that they're still together. And she's put up with so much shit from him. But while he was filming this movie, he decided that he was so tired of being away from his wife and children that this was the last movie he did. This is the last motion picture he did. He took Spin City after this.
Right.
And so, yeah, this was the last.
Which was great.
Oh, yeah. But this was, the last movie that he did. But here is the timeline, y'all. He was diagnosed in 1991 with Parkinson's as one of the youngest individuals to have had or have that diagnosis. This was in 1996, so he had already been struggling with Parkinson's for 5 years.
Right.
And there are moments you can see it.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to happen. There's
he
no way
has a
around it.
stiffness in the way he holds his head.
Here's the thing, though. Even though you know this is what is happening, Michael J. Fox has always had some movements that you attribute to Michael J. Fox.
Oh, yeah. He's had that head kink,
So,
head tilt thingy he does.
Even so, even with that, it is very easy just to see Michael J. Fox and not to see the impairments.
No.
Because it's like when we talked about Cyndi Lauper being in a film, when she's acting, when Cyndi Lauper is acting, it's easy not to apply, for whatever reason, to not apply the fact that she's just a singer trying to be an actor. Michael J. Fox, you do not see the disability because all you're seeing is Michael J. Fox. The tree is too big to see the forest behind it. So I think that even though it's there, it's just not a factor for you.
No. I was just, for me, I was hyper aware of it this time because I was looking for it. But for me, it was the timeline of knowing that he was diagnosed in 91. This was filmed in 96. He didn't come public with it until 2000. So we didn't even know for years that was something he was struggling with.
Right.
So, I mean, it's just amazing because it's not an easy disease to fight with. It's not. And watching that documentary about him, it breaks my heart because he's just so, y'all, I'm going to lose it when something happens to him because I just, again, all my life, Michael J. Fox. But back to the movie, I had to go off on that one.
So the thing that I had, there's some issues I had with Frank. He's not a perfect guy.
Oh, no, he's not.
Number one, he is highly unlikely to stop and help anyone unless it's going to help him at the start of this movie.
Oh, yeah.
He changes very rapidly because he does have a good heart. But Frank has got some issues. He's scamming people. That's already bad enough. Even doing it to survive doesn't absolve you of that.
No.
But the fact that he uses these ghosts and he's literally using them up. The older man, the judge, he is falling apart.
Yes.
He's drying. He says ectoplasm's drying up.
Yeah.
And so the ghosts, while they seem to understand that this is a bad thing, don't seem to be too worried about it. But it's still like you're using these ghosts. You're literally taking them from their graveyard, I guess.
Yeah.
And then using them for your own benefit. That's messed up. But then again, Frank is wallowing in his own issues, in his own grief and loss. And when you're in that state, you're not going to really want to do anything, much less the right thing.
No.
It's very easy to get into the gray matter of good and evil when you're feeling that kind of loss and feeling that vulnerable to the fact that you may have caused all this. Because he doesn't know. He doesn't know what happened in the accident. Obviously, some of that was his fault. The accident itself, probably his fault for not paying attention or being a little bit drunk.
Yeah. Because we're not 100% on what exactly happened. We just know.
We know in the flashback.
Oh, he did, right.
We do know what happened in the flashback with her.
True.
So at the very end, and that's what he recognizes in the film, he recognizes that it isn't actually his fault. While he is not blameless, he is also not to blame for the death of his wife.
And he does carry that guilt deeply with him.
Well, and when anytime you have grief and loss in a film, you're looking for that redemption arc. And Frank's whole movie, this whole movie is Frank's redemption arc.
Yes.
But in a lot of ways, I think that it can be seen as, that redemption and forgiveness for the mom.
Yeah.
And this whole thing. She dies at the end.
Yeah.
Her daughter, Dee.
Dee Wallace, yeah.
So the reason why it's funny because the reason why they picked Dee Wallace, why they cast her, is because she's so sweet they would never suspect she did it.
Yeah, no, because I mean she's E.T.'s mom. You know, the mom.
And when I
E.T.
first saw it, it worked because I never would have suspected her. I felt bad for her.
And that's the thing. So when Lucy goes to help Patricia, I couldn't think of her name. When Dee Wallace's character, she goes to this house. It's an old mansion-y house, you know, one of those old Victorian painted ladies. Not even a painted lady, just old. And it's Patricia and her mom. And she wanted to take her out of the house for stitches. And she's like, she can't leave the house. And the mother's very, very strict. And that's when Lucy notices a huge bruise on Patricia's neck. And she thinks the mother did this because she's not thinking there's a ghost beating the crap out of her. So she thinks she's immediately suspicious of the mother. Tries to talk to Patricia and is like, are you in trouble? And, you know, and she's like, no, it's okay, you know. But the mom corners Lucy and is like, she's a liar. Don't let her talk, you know, convince you. So she's sitting there.
Turns out mom's right.
Mom has been right. But you don't know that. And so she goes home, and this is before Ray's death. She goes home and she's like, why does it look familiar? Why does it all sound familiar? She goes and gets this serial killer VHS, and she's watching it, and it's talking about Johnny Charles Bartlett and how he had killed 12.
Well, it was about her.
Well, it was about him, but she was the side. Yeah. So it was about. So she was his girlfriend. Patricia Ann was his girlfriend, and while both were put in prison, he was given the electric chair because, again, he murdered 12 people. And he
didn't get to take it home. He had to sit in it and die in it.
Yes.
So he wasn't given the electric chair.
It was that was his only option. It was, you know, death or cake, and he chose death.
He was presented with the death. Yes.
And he chose death. And she was put in prison, but then eventually she was actually given to her mother, and I think was she institutionalized? I feel like I missed that.
She was, and then she was released to her mother.
Yes, and the thing is she could never leave her house. So,
well, I don't think that was actually part of the bargain.
Yeah, no. I remember somebody saying that she couldn't leave the house.
No, the mother said she doesn't leave the house, and I could have her locked up anytime I want. But I don't think this was not like a thing of her being imprisoned in her house by the law. This was more her mother being smart enough to know that this girl's going to kill people. Okay,
I feel like I missed that then. But
I could be wrong. Who knows? It's nebulous.
Ooh. So here are some interesting facts about them that were brought up in the movie. I am not Ash and Elena from Morbid, so I am not going to be able to do this with any justice, but 2 serial killers were mentioned in this movie. The first one was Charles Starkweather, which is kind of the inspiration of Johnny Charles Bartlett. Charles Starkweather and Carol Fugate, which was his girlfriend. I'm not sure if I said that name correctly, but for 2 months, in a 2-month period, they killed 11 people and 2 dogs.
Yeah, the natural born killered it.
Yes, they did. And that's why he said, you know, he has to get more than Starkweather. And when they got 12, he was like, oh, I beat Starkweather. But I
appreciate that he's keeping score. Yeah. You know, I think a lot of serial killers, they just kill as many as they can. Mm-hmm. And it's not really about the actual competitiveness.
Yeah. And again, I don't even know if Morbid did episodes about these guys yet, because I'm still listening and I have not heard all of them yet. So, and I am going to torture this name. So then later on, he mentions another serial killer, and it is Andre Chikatilo. I'm sorry, I know I butchered that one.
I feel like you just
Chikatilo.
You just Chai Rogic was it?
I mean, really, basically, but it's Andre Chikatilo.
It's like a WKRP in Cincinnati episode now.
Okay, well.
I don't know. You're probably right. Who knows?
So he was convicted of 52 murders. but they were in the
Damn.
Ukraine. Now, here's the thing. He traveled all over Europe. So they are thinking that if they were able to identify all of his victims, it would be in the triple digits. Because
He was busy.
he was very busy. So that is why Bartlett says that, you know, he wants to have more murders than that dude. And I think he called him the cannibal, but I don't think that was his name. I didn't see anything about the cannibal, but that
I don't
didn't
even get dressed on some days. How does he kill this many people? That's, what is that, 2 or 3 a day?
I don't
I mean, I
know.
don't have that kind of energy.
I know, it's a lot of work, but
Serial killers have a real type A personality.
they really do. But so you remember when Bartlett says, you know, that, you know, he's not even an American, you know, why should another country have, that's this guy. So that's who he was talking about, because this guy
Gotcha.
was in the Ukraine. So yeah, they actually do mention, actual serial killers and how
yes.
they're influencing this movie.
Neato.
Because when we get to the end, he's on number 41. Yes, 41.
She's 41.
She's 41. So that would have been, so there would have been 41 murders. And he was not near Mr. Andres, because I'm not going to try his last name again, his numbers. So that was the links. So with that in mind, Johnny Bartlett is really trying to get you don't know it's him, but when you start putting the pieces together, the numbers on the forehead that are appearing on these people, it's starting to like click together that this is Johnny Bartlett.
Right.
But they know, so when Frank and Lucy put it all together and they realize it's Johnny, they still don't have any suspect towards Patricia. But what they do know is that not only can this Grim Reaper / Bartlett monstrosity kill people, but it can also kill ghosts.
Right. In fact, the Reaper takes his scythe, which has that cool snapping action where the blade folds out.
I know.
I always loved that.
It's a switchblade.
Even back when I
scythe.
first saw it, I was like, that's a really cool
Or sickle,
effect.
or yeah.
That you slam it on the ground, it
Bam.
shoots the thing out. But he kills
The judge. He was in the that's
he
when
kills the judge, but he kills Stewart, and when they get killed, apparently they go boneless, and they just got a pile of ghost skin. I guess it's supposed to be ghost skin. That's a very hard thing to say together. Ghost skin.
So did it just happen with Stu?
No, it didn't just happen with Stewart. It happened several times.
Okay.
With Ray and so forth. Well, we don't know about Ray.
Yeah, because we just saw
It
his
was
head go.
the old man, the judge.
Because you cut him in half, so I didn't realize
I know,
that.
but you see him fall to the ground all boneless.
Oh, okay.
There's no bones left.
Oh, okay.
So, and the same thing happened with Stewart. But the thing, and this is what I was talking about before, the play between the living and the dead. The dead can still affect the living in a very real way. Even if they can't see it, it still happens.
Yes.
As Lucy is rushing to get in the car. Mm-hmm. Is it Lucy?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. God, man. As Lucy rushes to get in the car at that point because she's running away,
Yeah.
that pile of skin lands on the hood.
Oh, I missed that.
And it makes me jump every single time.
I wasn't looking because I was writing, so I thought it was his head that hit the...
No, it was the whole pile of skin.
Oh, gross.
And I expected her to jump.
Well, yeah.
But of course she's not going to because this is CGI.
True.
And
She can't see ghosts
she
yet.
can't see ghosts, but it affects the living because it went thump. It actually,
Yeah.
had an effect.
And the reason why she's running out of the house, so when she goes back to the house to try to help Patricia, Ray sees the house, and the house is covered in like black smoke. It looks like it's like warbling, and it's just freaky looking.
Oh, so it wasn't Stewart that fell on. Yeah, it was Ray.
It was
You're
Ray.
right.
Yeah, it was Ray.
So Stewart died and went into a puddle.
Yes.
And then he just got left as a puddle, and I guess he faded out.
Yeah.
Ray is the one that dropped. I had that mixed up. I
Yeah.
kept thinking it was Stewart for some reason.
I didn't see how Cyrus died.
I don't think Cyrus died, did he? Oh, no, he did.
He did.
Maybe he went off camera because he was wrestling with the Reaper.
Maybe, yeah, because I was wondering, yeah. So she goes into the house and she's hiding from the mother was outside and she's talking to Patricia. Patricia, like, hides her in her room and they're talking and she's telling her about Johnny. And then they go and look at the newspapers and there's an urn in Patricia's room and she says, it's my punishment. My father died shortly after this all happened, and my mother's punishment is for me to keep his ashes in my room. And so then they go into the mother's room and look at newspaper clippings, and Lucy's like, this isn't you, that's you were young and you were misled. And the mother comes in, and so Lucy or Patricia puts Lucy in her mother's closet, and she's like, escape when you can, I'll get her, I'll distract her. And so she ends up like downstairs with the mother making tea. And then Lucy notices the box cutter on the top shelf of the mother's closet.
That belonged to Frank.
It says FB on it. And so she sneaks out of the house, and that's all when, and then the thing starts chasing her, but she doesn't really quite know that. And that's when Ray gets killed, because he's trying to stop the thing from going after her.
Right.
And she goes back and she tells Frank that she'd found the box cutter.
This all escalates very quickly.
Very quickly.
Frank actually is going to kill himself so that he can become a ghost and fight the Reaper.
Yes.
Because at the time he doesn't know who it is.
No.
But he just knows he has to stop it because he doesn't want young Andy McDowell to die. Which is...
because a number...
Trini,
yeah.
Trinidad is an awesome name, by the way.
Yeah, Trini Alvarado is Dr. Lucy Linsky.
Right. So
and Johnny,
she is very much the Andy McDowell of this film. She's very sweet and very, like, projection. She projects kindness and everything else. Understanding.
And because there's somebody, I didn't say it earlier, Johnny Bartlett is played by Jake Busey. And if you have any question, you look at that last name and you're like, I wonder if he's related to Gary. Just look at his face.
He's the great-grandfather of Gary Busey.
He is his father's son. He looked just like his daddy. There's no denying that man's genetics. So yes, he's gonna blow his brains out because he's like, I need to fight with them on his level and be in his plane. And Lucy's like, no, I can help you.
She's like, wait, I can kill you for you.
Yeah, die peacefully. Unalive yourself in a smart way.
So she gives him a injection, not of meth because it's best to snort that apparently.
We go on some weird rabbit holes, y'all.
Yeah, you got to look things up if you don't know about them.
And we didn't. Now we do.
So he is given an injection and put into a cooler.
Yeah.
With many different medical things.
Yes.
I think what looked like maybe uteruses frozen in a row.
Yeah, and you were telling him to eat them. Those are there for you to eat.
That's the only thing he was going to have to eat in there. He has to survive.
He needed to die. So while he's freezing his ass off in the literal sense, Dammer shows up. And he's like, I don't agree with any of this that's happening, so we're going to the cemetery.
So Dammer is the expert.
Yes.
Who doesn't seem to understand anything that's actually going on or happening.
No, he's oblivious.
He is a foil to Frank at every turn. He's just in Frank's way.
He is. And he's got this little Hitler haircut. And that was actually, what's his face? The actor's choice. Jeffrey Combs. That was his choice. He wanted to have that Hitler haircut, and they ended up giving him the prosthetics to make his ears stick out a little bit because he has a bit of short of the mustache. The fucking little Nazi is right there,
So the whole thing with Dammers is that he's an expert. He's been obviously tortured.
Yes.
And self-tortured, and he is fully on board with all the cults that he's gone into
Yeah.
and come out of. He's gone too deep, I guess, is the way it goes.
Yeah.
And he really kind of Sergeant Pimentos all the way through this film,
Really
where he
does.
just loses his shit at every turn, but he doesn't actually solve anything. He doesn't actually help anything. He only harms, and he keeps going after Lucy, who is an innocent in this no matter how you cut it.
Yeah. I mean, she's not involved in any
He
of
keeps
this.
kidnapping her
Yeah.
under the authority of given to him by the
FBI?
by the President of the United States or whatever he said.
Yeah. I mean...
So, but, the line that sticks with me, has stuck with me ever since I saw this way back, has been what he says.
He rips open his shirt.
But I picture it so differently in my head that when I do see it, it's so completely different. First of all, for some reason, I keep remembering this as Crispin Glover.
Because it has a Crispin Glover flavor to it.
Yeah, but I also picture this part happening in the graveyard, but it doesn't. It happens inside a room in the hospital.
No, this is actually outside because remember he thinks he's pushing the car. She's in the car and he's standing in front of the car and he rips open his shirt and he's got the scars all over his chest and that's when he says the line.
Oh, maybe it is outside.
He's standing in front of the car.
Okay. Oh, because he rips his shirt open several times. Yeah. For some reason, I keep thinking this is Crispin Glover. Mm-hmm. It's obviously not, but in my mind, that's what I'm picturing for some reason because he is acting that strangely.
Yeah. And the thing is, I don't think Crispin Glover acts.
Yeah, but I think that, when I keep picturing this, that is the reenactment of Crispin Glover. And he says as he rips his shirt open, my body is a roadmap of pain. And he is been tortured, and he has tortured himself, obviously. Mm-hmm. But Frank, this is kind of like a reflection of Frank, of how he has tortured himself.
Yeah.
So he keeps getting in his own way. So in a lot of ways, Dahmer is that personification of...
Physical personification.
Yeah, of Frank's emotional state all the time is he is his own worst enemy.
Yes.
He is causing all his own pain. And he could have set all those ghosts to rest long ago, but he kept holding on to them. Mm-hmm. So it comes back to that not letting those ghosts go, and they keep, drying up on him.
Yeah.
As they age over time in a way because their ectoplasm dries up.
Yeah.
And he keeps holding on to things because he can't let them go because if he has to look at himself honestly, he's afraid he's going to see that he did do it.
Yeah.
But it turns out, and that's why, his redemption isn't really internal, it's external.
Yes.
He physically, sees that happen almost exactly the way it actually happened before when he wrecks the car and what's her name?
Oh, I can't think of her name, but it's the reporter.
The reporter. Because he's trying to save her life.
Because she's got a number on it.
She's number 40.
Yeah.
Or 39 or 30, something
yeah, something like that.
But he's trying to save her. Well, she falls out of the car because he crashes in the same exact place because he has a flashback. Mm-hmm. And when she's on the ground, he sees this happening again, and it reminds him of his wife having it happen.
Now, yeah, and his wife had a number 13 on her forehead.
Right.
So it dawns on us that, okay, so Bartlett is still doing this. So he's still going. And, when he was alive, he ended at 12. And then he was put to death. And the afterlife, he keeps going. And he's been killing people for years. And that's the thing.
Unabated.
Because when we come into the story, he's on number 37. And so you're like, what the fuck, man? It's been a thing, but that's a lot of bodies in a very small town. Because this is not a big town. It's a very quaint little town.
It seems to be,
New
yes.
Zealand.
I don't know where it's supposed to be based.
Yeah.
I just don't know if they ever mention that.
So Dammers he kidnaps Lucy, and he's not letting her revive Frank, and Frank only has a certain amount of time. And Frank ends up in the graveyard with them, and because he beats he's in the graveyard with them, and that's when the Grim Reaper shows up, and he kind of gets Lucy out of there.
Well, Lucy escapes in the car.
Yes.
And he is shooting the Reaper with ghost guns.
Ghost guns from Ermi.
Yeah, we have Ermi, who is a military, obviously a Marine.
Yeah.
Who has been commanding that graveyard for a while now.
I don't think they're all proud. And I don't think the other ghosts are too thrilled about it.
Well, I don't think that I think he's right in not liking Frank, who keeps taking ghosts and using them up.
Yes, and every time Frank is in the graveyard, Ermi comes out and basically yells at him.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really want to fuck around with him. But the Grim Reaper / Bartlett, he kills Ermi. And so Frank ends up picking up his ghost M60s and shoots him and hunts him down, but doesn't Bartlett kill Dammers at that point?
Kill Dammers?
Yeah, Dammers is a ghost at the end. Wasn't that when he dies?
Yeah, but not right then.
Okay, I thought that was when he dies. So, but he gets Lucy out. Lucy, he's escaping, and she, he's like, you have to go get my body, go revive it. I'm gonna deal with this dude here. And he shoots the shit out of the Reaper, and then he gets the face of it. It ends up like in big globs, and he gets the face of it, and he slams it. Who are you? And then it finally clears from this monstrosity of a face.
The Reaper face.
To Johnny Bartlett. And that's when it really, really hits him what the hell is happening. And as they're all like dealing with this, and and another ghost comes up to him, and he's got a number 12 on his head, and he's like, thank you for finally getting rid of this guy. He took my life. And as he's talking to him, the goo and the gobs are all like going together, and they're slinking under the ground, and it all gets kind of pseudo put back together, and it falls into the sewer. Frank goes after him, and he's fighting with him again, but this time in the sewer. But then Lucy,
I think that's supposed to be a crypt.
A crypt, but I don't know. It had a grate, and it looked like it probably...
It could be. I mean, who knows?
And so Lucy ends up reviving him back at the hospital.
Just before he actually he could have killed Bartlett then. And
he says to her, I didn't do it, but I was so close. So they know that this is Bartlett because it's confirmed now. So Lucy's like, we need to go and save Patricia. He's going to go after her, and her mother's crazy, and we need to save her. And so they go back to the big house.
So the best boy was Simon Higgins. Just want you to know that.
That's important. You watched last week's episode.
There's no best boy joke in this one, but in case you want to know, the best boy, Simon Higgins, he was the best. He was the best of the boys that day.
He's the best around.
So I couldn't help but notice that the doctor, Lucy, is never the one patching someone up.
Only one time.
Only at the very start where she's being paid to be a doctor.
Yeah.
So when Frank gets shot, she does not patch him up. She just holds him and yells at him.
Yeah.
Like movie doctors, I guess. But she doesn't ever patch him up. And then when the older doctor who hired her becomes involved, he starts telling her what to do as if she's a nurse.
Yeah.
I'm like, did he hire you to be a doctor? Did he hire you to be a nurse? That's really annoying.
Yeah. But we find out that it was not just Johnny Bartlett. It was also Patricia.
Well, yeah. I mean, you find that out.
Because she kills her mother. and they end up in the asylum, or the hospital, the old hospital.
The
right?
old hospital, because guess what? There are no churches in this town.
None.
They have to get the urn, which actually holds
Johnny's ashes, yeah.
Yeah.
Not her dad's, but Johnny's.
Right. So they have to get that urn full of the ashes into the church, or into a church.
Mm-hmm.
But there apparently are no churches in this town. They must take it to a chapel in the old hospital, the old abandoned hospital.
Yeah.
Why? I have no idea. It doesn't make any sense.
Nope.
There were obviously churches around. You had a cemetery.
Yeah, I mean, unless the logic is that's where he committed his murders.
But it wasn't what they said. They said we need to get them to a church.
And she goes, there's a chapel in the old church, or the old hospital.
She's been there 3 days. She's been to this town for
3 months, she said.
I'm saying. She has not had enough time to find out about the, quote, old hospital, end quote. She just started working at the new hospital, end quote.
And what the hell, man? This is where we should have gone. This is not in America.
Well, yeah.
Because the first thing, she's making a house call.
Which isn't a thing.
No.
It hasn't been a thing in a very long time.
Yeah. I mean, there's just so many things that we just I didn't think about then. I'm just like, oh, that's just movie logic. No, this is New Zealand.
It kind of is movie logic in a way.
It really is, because, yeah.
In order to insert the doctor and still have the thing where Patricia can't leave the house, she has to go there.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's so weird. But overall, though, they figured out, blah, blah, blah. People die, go to heaven. Heaven is awesome. He sees...
They don't really equate it to heaven.
No, they don't say
but
heaven.
But it is that same, good versus
place, yeah.
evil, and then you have the good place and the bad place.
Yeah.
I particularly like at the end where they have the representation of, the devil or hell.
Yeah.
Being this giant worm.
Yeah, it was the worm from Tremors. I'm pretty sure they just recast him.
I like to think of it as the hell sandworm graboid.
Ooh, I like that.
It's long, but I think it fits because it's also a very big entity.
It really is, and it eats those evil ghosts.
It rips them apart into pieces and swallows them up.
Yeah.
So I guess that's their just punishment. But let's face it, they killed a lot of people in between them. Why you wait until they die and decide to go into the light?
Yeah.
Before you can do anything?
And the thing is that you can in this universe, you can choose to not go into the light. And a lot of ghosts don't, which is why the cemetery is chock full of spirits, because they must not all go into the light.
But the light represents either side, either this heaven-like creation, the good place, or the bad place.
Well, I think that's so let's just sidetrack to the movie Ghost. The bad guys, when they die, the shadows come and pull them down.
I love that effect.
I love that effect. And then when they die and they're good, the light. Well, see, in this movie, you don't get a choice. You just get that one light, which is kind of good because you see that light in the tunnel and you're going, oh, I'm going to heaven.
I mean, the light is kind of the judgment, though, right?
It really
because
is.
Once you get into it, it tells you what...
But you don't know that.
Yeah, you just either go to the good place or you go to the bad place.
And you go to the bad place hard, people.
And I remember thinking, are they just going to go to this good place?
Yeah.
Because he dragged them there? That's kind of bullshit.
Yeah. But...
And then you're happy that they don't go to the good place because they don't deserve to go to the good place?
And I like the ambiguity of it because it leaves it open for a diverse amount of religions.
This isn't all necessarily Christian theme.
No, they mention a church, but they don't go to a church. They go to the chapel in the hospital, which is non-denominational, and everybody is welcome. And so
consecrated ground, which could be any
literally
religious denomination of any kind.
Yes, and I believe a graveyard is consecrated ground if it's with a church.
Yeah, a graveyard is...
A cemetery is without a church, and a graveyard is with a church, I think.
No, cemetery is with a church. Graveyard is a standalone.
I always get them backwards. So, with that...
I could also be wrong.
But that would be considered consecrated ground as well. But they decide to go for the institution, hospital / chapel. But they don't lay onto the actual specific of religion. They make it ambiguous.
Nope, you're right.
Oh, so graveyard is with the church?
Cemetery is the broader reference for consecrated ground for burial, so it's still consecrated ground.
Oh, it is still consecrated.
Well, graveyard implies a smaller burial ground, especially one associated with a church. So not necessarily having a church, but associated with one.
So you know why I think of it like I put it with the church in my head? A yard is like a backyard for a house, and a graveyard is a yard with graves in it for a church.
See, as a entirely lifelong atheist, my knowledge of cemeteries and what they represent for churches is almost nothing. But I've read the Bible more than any Christian has.
Me too.
So
yeah, at least let's put it this way. I'm not going to knock all Christians, but the ones I know personally have not read the Bible as often and as much as I have in my past.
I read it a lot. I don't know why I did.
The stories are interesting.
No, I don't think that's it.
I'm
not trying to critique or anything.
No.
Because it's not my thing.
No.
It's other people saying they can have their thing. I think I read it a lot because I was trying to understand why this pervades our
moral standards.
Well, no, our entire society. Mm-hmm. My society, the one we live in America, it just pervades it.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it because it doesn't seem to make any sense to my logic.
Yes.
That's really as far as I'm going to go on that because I am not going to yuck someone else's yum. Mm-hmm. Have your thing.
I like how you threw a kink statement, an affirmation of other people's kinks towards religion, and I appreciate.
I think that if we look at Dahmer, we can say that religious cults, and religions themselves can be a kink.
Oh yeah, no. I kind of agree with you on that because Dahmer's is a bit of a twisted little kinky bastard.
I think everybody has their thing, and I'm saying they're free to their thing. Me being an atheist does not mean that I don't care about people. It means I don't believe in a God. That means I don't believe in any God. I just don't believe in them. And it is a lack of something. It is not a belief system.
Yeah. And where I don't necessarily follow Christianity, I do believe there are gods, and I do believe that there is a God, and there is also multiple gods and goddesses, and that they are entities, and I also believe in elementals, and I believe in a lot of things, because you know what? Why the hell not?
And see, as an atheist, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, because
doesn't bother me.
Am I hurting anybody? No.
Because it's not my issue.
Exactly.
It's your issue. And now you have to deal with your gods.
And I don't, because they're not my gods.
No, I mean, you have to deal with the fact that for you, gods exist. I don't have to deal with that. It's not my thing. And the great thing about that is I can walk away from that and never think about it. And you can do your thing and never think about me.
I mean, and for me, it's a case of I don't have a quote-unquote God, because that's a lot of responsibility that I just don't have the time and the energy for. But I do know that they exist. I feel like the world, the universe, anything around me, there's too many things unexplained that I cannot explain with science or logic. There has to be more. And because of that, I can't say that those things don't exist.
Well, my thing is that I hope that they do exist. Mm-hmm. Because that would be great. Because I am very much for justice. Mm-hmm. And if that means justice will come to people who have acted certain ways, I am all for it.
Oh, yeah.
And when we're looking at the justice that is paid in this movie, we're talking about Dahmer, who kind of receives justice because now he's a ghost. Mm-hmm. Because he's thwarted Frank every single time and gotten other people killed.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's a dick, and he poured the ashes out before they got in the church.
Oh, yeah, because he was... I forget, that's why, he wasn't dead yet.
He's such an asshole.
Oh, my God, he is such a dick.
And, of course, the murderers.
Bartlett and
Bartlett
Patricia.
Bartlett and Patricia. They both deserve the justice they get.
Yeah.
And you're glad that they get it. And I think Frank, even though he obviously didn't pay for any of his part in this by going to jail for DUI or whatever.
Yeah.
He tortured himself enough to where I think that was the redemption.
He paid his price
right, and I think there was redemption there, and he was forgiven by his wife.
Yeah.
In the good place. For the brief moment he saw her, it was kind of like a Harry Potter thing.
I like how Cyrus, in the beginning of the movie, he's complaining that he's stuck in those 70s polyester clothes. And because when you die, you are stuck in the outfits that you're wearing. And that's why Ray is in a jogging outfit. You know, he was out running. And when they're in the good place, he's got a whole new outfit. Both him and Stuart are both like
updated
styling.
Yeah.
And that's when I'm looking at Stuart and I'm going, see, now that's why I thought she was cute. That's why I thought she was cute.
So
he's adorable. You can't help that.
But I really appreciate the way that the ghosts were there, but they weren't the main characters.
No. They were important to the plot, but they were not.
But they revolved around the living. Mm-hmm. So they revolved around all of these interactions amongst the living.
Yeah.
But they didn't actually, even though they can obviously have direct, unlike a lot of ghost stories, they have direct access to moving things, stuff like that. But it doesn't change the living. It just annoys the living.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's really hard to understand. Are other ghosts able to kill other people in this, or is it just the Reaper?
So I don't think they can because
Alfie was not able to punch Frank.
Who's Alfie?
Albie? The
Ermy.
Yeah.
That's his last name. I can never remember his first name.
Ermy was not able to punch Frank.
No, he wasn't.
He was able to hit at him, and because he can see them, feel something, but he wasn't able to actually hurt him.
And remember that when the judge is trying to get his jawbone back and he's coming out shooting, he does hit Stuart in the head, but it healed up.
And it hurts him.
It hurts him, but it heals up. But I don't think he could have hurt Frank.
Well, he was shooting, and Frank was ducking because
he was ducking,
I don't think it could actually kill him. So that means the Reaper had some. He wasn't collecting the souls because they were going up to the light.
Mm-hmm. No, they were going to the light because when.
So that's what's confusing about that.
Because the dude was up there, the one wasn't he? Yeah.
So it's confusing as to why he thought he was getting anything out of this.
Numbers. He was trying to rack
I know, but it doesn't make him more powerful. So how is he gaining power?
I don't think they explain that.
Yeah. I mean, they imply that he's gaining power because he has the ability to do all these things.
I think he maybe made a deal or something. And then like later on, we find out, because when
You got a whole backstory for the Reaper.
But like there's the happily ever after with Lucy and Frank, and the sheriff shows up and he's like, "Do you know anything about Ouija boards?" And he's like, "No." And the sheriff was like, "Well, I found like a whole stack of them at Patricia Ann's house, and we think that she was after she was released to her mother that she just did nothing but try to summon Johnny Bartlett, because they're all accepting of this fact."
It's again, there's this kind of thing where in some of these movies that we've reviewed recently, the complete belief in this is baffling. Mm-hmm. It makes the movie, it somehow isolates the movie into this one very specific genre.
Yes.
And it's very strange how it's just accepted.
Yeah.
And the audience kind of just accepts it because otherwise they would take too long, I guess, for Frank to try to convince the sheriff this is all real. But since ghosts have such a hold on the living, because they can actually move things easily and stuff like that, it does tire them out, because when they tried to move the bed around, it was really heavy, and they I guess it dries up some of their ectoplasm.
I think so, because like when he comes to the house, to Ray and Lucy's house, and he's like, "Where the toilet bowl's slamming, and where did they move the table 360 degrees and da da da?" And they're like, "No. Did the bed go up and down?" Yeah, because they stopped doing it. And later on, he's mad at them, and he's like, "What the hell happened, guys? You didn't do half of what you're supposed to do." And that's when they're like, "Well, the bed was tiring, you know." So it's definitely, it takes a lot out of them.
It really had a lot of echoes of House too. You know?
I know.
I mean, in a lot of ways, it kind of has that, but a lot more Disney.
Yeah, oh, definitely, definitely.
It's a lot more Disney because you don't get any sense of like real dread. The ghosts really lose nothing.
Yeah.
If they go, they just go to the good place or the bad place or whatever. But they don't actually suffer anything.
But we don't know that either, because even the ghosts didn't know that.
Right.
So
but
it's like when
I'm
you
saying the overall storyline is very Disney-fied.
But I like that, like the humans don't know where they go as an afterlife. Like we do not in reality know where we go as an afterlife, if there is an afterlife or if there's nothing. We don't know. But the ghosts also don't know if there's anything more for them if they are killed as ghosts, because who the hell would even think of that?
Yeah.
It's not even you're a ghost. Da, da, da. So
how did you feel about this movie?
I am
upon rewatching now.
I liked it. I really don't. It's so funny. Now we have a new scale. It's going to be Tremors or Short Circuit.
It kind of is.
And on the Tremors to Short Circuit scale, I am
Tremors being the
best, and Short Circuit so far as the worst. I'm gonna put it just maybe above Chicago, below While You Were Sleeping.
Okay.
Where
is that on the scale, though?
I mean, I'm gonna say we need to build a scale of like our of 10 movies, and we can like squeeze them in between.
I don't know if I want to rate movies.
No, I don't want to rate them, but like just in our little weird, you know.
I think
it was good. It was good. It was as good as I remembered it.
Okay.
So I can't say like again.
But you're telling me you like it.
I liked it.
How did you feel about the movie?
I hadn't gotten to that part yet. I was still trying to get my likes part out. I feel like it touches on death in a very interesting way. My love for it is still there. I can't verbalize my feelings. I'm really bad about verbalizing my feelings, which is really bad for an emotions podcast. But here we go.
I think that's a reality for most people, though. That's kind of why we're talking on a podcast like this, talking about our emotions.
It made me nostalgic for watching a lot of Michael J. Fox movies. I kind of want to go back and see a few more. It reminded me of who he is, but who he once was. Because he's not the same person he was, and because he can't be. He physically cannot be.
And no one is the person they were.
But it also made me sad in the sense that the role is more serious than most of the roles he plays. But this character, he's so sad. He's not a happy person. At the end, he's kind of lighthearted. But even then, he's still very serious. He's not a happy person. So I don't know if that was just a director choice, or if it was an actor choice, or if it was just Michael's exhaustion with acting. You know, because he had done so many movies, and in a short period of time, and like I said, this was when he decided he just was so tired of being away from his family, and also he was 5 years into Parkinson's. So there's so many factors, but the character is very, not dour, because he's not mean. He is kind, but he's very just not happy guy. There's nothing happy about him. Dude's eating a bowl of fucking cereal and he's not finding any joy in it.
It's Boo-Berry.
Boo-Berry and or Lucky Charms, depending on which scene you're looking at.
I just thought that was funny because I saw the Boo-Berry box. I was like, are you kidding me?
Yep, he's eating Boo-Berry. That part, that gives me sadness for Michael. But otherwise, it's an enjoyable, stupid little romp of scary that's not scary, and with a cute storyline. And you're right, it's a Disney scary movie.
What changed for me, because I don't exactly remember what it was about the movie that I liked before, how I felt about it.
Yeah, it's been years.
But it does itch that need for justice that I have. It does itch that, and I enjoy that part a little bit, but it just seems like they still got off very easy.
They did. I mean, they did get ripped apart and sent down to hell with a freaking worm thingy.
But you don't get to...
You don't get to see it happen. Well, I mean, sort of. But
my thing is, it is easy to define Frank's issues. It is very easy to look at other people and to define what it is about them that makes them tick. It is much harder when you see the thing that you're seeing in them reflected from you.
Yeah.
And dealing with loss and grief is nothing new for anyone. And we all endure it. And I think that's why this movie probably resonates even beyond the funny ghosts or the humorous parts or aspects of the movie. It does seem more serious. It seems more serious because the laughter is all very muted. The funny moments are more about the reflection you would see in a stand-up comedy through a pane of glass from a funeral home. It is muted. And that, I don't know if you've ever been to a funeral in which you're the participant, where you're actually there to mourn someone you care about. There is almost like, and I don't know if it's for everyone, but like for me, I lose my hearing almost. It is almost like I am not able to process everything that's happening around me. My hearing goes kind of out. My attention is gone. And I'm not even thinking about what's happening around me. And I'm not thinking about the funeral. I am dissociating. And you don't get to really process your loss and your guilt and the things you wish you had said, the things you wish you had done before they were gone. You don't get to process any of that by the funeral.
No.
The funeral is a precursor to what you're going to feel later. Funeral is always for the living.
It is for the living.
In the movie, you see that it gets to be used for the dead, which is kind of a nice thought. But really, it's the people that are around the casket that get to watch this happen. They're the ones it's for. And at the end of the day, you still have to process everything after. The hardest thing to deal with at a funeral is that night after the funeral, when you come home. It is the worst feeling in the world. And I experienced that with my mother. My father, on the other hand, I did not experience that with. It is probably the kindest thing that anyone's ever done for our family.
It was an experience I've never experienced before.
In which my mom's best friend from high school, and they were all into their 60s, invited us over because they were all family friends and they knew my dad. And when he died, at the funeral, they said, come on over to our house. They have a rec center. It's basically a 50s diner.
Oh my God. It was like
built into a building
huge
outside.
Detached garage that was turned into a rec center.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we sat there in this, what was it, a Shake Shack or
it was like a booth,
a malt shop kind of situation.
Eating cobblers, looking at pictures.
With the checkered floor and everything.
Oh, yeah.
And the 50s accoutrement.
And just reminiscing.
and accoutrement. And we were reminiscing about my dad and going through photos, and my mom was leading the way on all this. Because they were divorced for a long time, but they became good friends.
But nobody was crying. It was such a celebration of his life at that moment. It was
the one time I think there was a good outcome to a funeral, if there ever could be.
Because his death was so surprising.
But that was so much closure in that one moment, in that one night.
Yep.
Right after the funeral. But you just don't get those every time. You don't get to have...
And it was already like a weird situation because like I literally just found out. I like came back from court that morning.
Yeah.
And had finally finalized my divorce from my previous marriage, even though we'd been separated for 10 years. And then you came home from work and told me your dad had died. And I was like, what the fuck? You know, this whole day is so weird. It was up and down. And it was just such a weird...
Yeah, it was emotional roller coaster.
Because we did not expect his death.
So I understand what Frank is feeling, losing my best friend a couple of years ago.
Yeah, when Joe died, yeah.
You understand loss and you understand the guilt from not doing more. And I think it's important that this movie has that veneer of comedy, or you just cry through the whole fucking thing.
Oh, yeah, you would.
It allows you, almost like that night with my dad, at my dad's funeral, to have that time to talk and to laugh and to think about the loss in a productive and a really uplifting way, that he's gone, they're gone. You have to process that loss, and then you learn to kind of keep it with you. Like all these memories of the people that I know, they'll go on with me because I carry them.
Yeah.
Not because they can walk themselves, but because I carry them now. It isn't an honorary thing. I'm entrusted with that memory of them. And it's the same for our kids with us.
Oh, yeah.
We get to be immortalized in the memories of the people that come after us. And I think this movie... now, for me, meant so much more than it meant back then, when I never really... The only loss I'd experienced were from comrades who died in war.
Yeah.
That is the only thing I had to process. And I know it seems weird. If you don't know them, like their family, they're not family. They were people I fought with, and I did not know most of them. You have guilt, you have loss, you have PTSD. Whatever you gain from that is what you take with you, and you carry that. But you're not carrying them. Their family is carrying them, not you. But a personal loss, like the loss of your family, the people that you have grown up with, is so much harder to bear. And if you are in love with someone, like he's in love with his wife, it is a very heavy burden to drag around with you and expect any lightness of being. It is hard when you're weighed down by that weight.
Yeah. I think that his way of not getting over, but like, so when his character dies and he's up in the good place and he sees his wife and she just tells him to be happy, and then he gets sent back to his body, his way of coping with that and dealing with that, the mourning and just finally coming out of the haze, was ripping down the house. That was his symbol. That was the unfinished work. This was him, and he held on to it.
Well, that was his guilt.
Oh, yeah.
He was holding on to that guilt. He wasn't going to let it go because he was torturing himself.
Oh, yeah.
And we all do that. I think this movie has so much to say about it that it hits you in the face with it multiple times, that people should be able to walk away from this film with a very serious amount of insight into maybe their own loss and stuff, because it is over and over again about loss and about grief. I don't know. I think that the comedy is there to lighten the mood of your contemplation. And I appreciate that. And I wish this movie had been done at a more serious point in time, or maybe in a more serious bent. I don't want it to be remade, because I don't want to take Michael J. Fox out of this.
No.
But if it were to be remade, let's say if it were to be remade, to keep some of that comedy alive in it, but to really delve into the background, into the things that happen, because those are all very lightly done. They don't delve into what his issues were at the time.
Yeah.
It's all exposition given by Dammers and so forth. And I think that this movie could be a drama.
It could be.
It could very much a drama and a lot less comedy. Even the Disney-fied Ghost, I think, are somewhat Disney-fied, at least in their reality.
Yeah, because because like, even like Stuart, when he gets out of the back of the car and he's like gonna throw up and his cheeks puff out and then he ends up puking out of his ears in Ghost.
Yeah, it's very Disney-fied. Yeah. But if you were to delve into the emotional aspects of these ghosts and Frank's use of them, and then, really get into a serious mode with this film, it could be very dark and very horrifying.
Yeah.
But I think that it could be done well.
Oh, I agree.
And still be a tool for grief and loss.
Because it's a really interesting story. Having this serial killer continuing his because that's a horrifying thought if you think about it. And especially because, again, I listen to Morbid and I listen to a lot of true crime stuff. Think about these fucking animals who destroy human beings. And if they could still continue in the afterlife, that hurts my head. And yeah, I think that is a different and interesting twist. I never, when I remember watching this the first time, honestly, even watching it this time, because it had been so many years, I fucking forgot what the numbers, when the numbers appeared, I forgot what they stood for.
And it was startling, wasn't it?
Yes. I was like, oh my God, is that a countdown? Is he,
I've forgotten about it too. And when he sees it, his reaction to it mirrored my reaction to it, going, what the fuck is that? I don't remember that.
So it was a great concept. So we keep saying Disney-fied, but it was rated R.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is I think that it is billed as a fantasy horror and not as a comedy, but there is comedy in it.
It's got comic moments.
Well, let's say it has levity.
Yeah. But honestly, because in the future we want to do Legend, and while Legend is not a comedy, there are light moments. There are moments that make you chuckle, and it's usually with
it's the ghosts who are Disney-fied. That's what makes it a lighter film, and without them, this would be such a darker movie.
Well,
without them being in that Disney-fied kind of presentation, without the silliness of the ghosts, there would be zero fun in this.
Oh yeah, no.
It would be delving into the real blood and guts of the loss and the pain and guilt, and how Frank isn't processing it.
Oh yeah.
How he's just he's literally living in it, and that's a representation of the house. The only good part of the entire place that Lucy finds out when she goes there and looks around is that basketball court that him and his wife had fought over is torn, is the concrete's torn out, and it's a beautiful garden, very well manicured,
because that's one thing she wanted,
right?
But yeah, Peter Jackson did not want it to be a rated R, and he censored a lot of stuff so that way he could get it to a PG-13. But they said no, it's going to be a rated R. And they were like justifying it with like, oh, well, he shot this many bullets into a door and da da da. So
they're ghost bullets.
yeah. So that's
Actually,
why
the shotguns were pretty jarring.
Yeah, they were. And he's using that water gun that looks like a gun, and you can't even find a water gun nowadays that looks like a gun. They put this orange caps on everything. But Peter Jackson was like, well, then fine. And one of the deaths, and I don't know which one because my research did not tell me. Doesn't mean it's not out there. I just didn't find it. But one of the deaths was particularly gruesome because he was just like, fuck you. I'm gonna earn that R then. You're gonna give me an R, I'm gonna earn that R. Because really it's not an R movie. Not in any universe.
I think, like the worst death in the entire movie, the one that actually like was like, holy shit, is when Ray's face got chopped off.
Oh my god, yeah, when his head
he ripped his face off.
Yeah.
I'm like, that came out of nowhere. Sure, yeah, comical death, spike in the head, and he melts.
Yeah,
stuff like that. That was like a swipe and just ripped his face right off. I was like, that is some Predator shit right there.
Yeah. So, do you think we passed the Castellini?
Okay. I don't know. I think it does.
I think it does.
So there have to be at least 2 named women characters with at least 5 lines of dialogue each.
Lucy and Patricia.
The mother.
And the mother. She doesn't have a name, so it's not named. But Lucy and Patricia both have names and dialogue that's more than 5 lines.
Yeah. Those characters must have a conversation, not necessarily with the other woman, either not about their partner or with their partner, future or current, and not about their relationship.
Well, Lucy never talks about her relation. Like, they don't, her and Frank, honestly, other than the chemistry that they actually have, they don't, until they kiss at the end and they're at that picnic that they set up outside the house, they don't even mention a relationship between the two of them.
They're just talking about what's happening.
Now, Patricia she doesn't even really talk about Johnny until later on.
Right.
So every other time, when she does talk about Johnny, it's not about their relationship. It's about her getting put in jail and him getting taken away from her, but not the relationship until later on when it's out in the open of who she really is.
So they've had conversations.
Yeah.
At least one of the other women has to be integral to the plot, meaning that if she were written out of the film, it couldn't reach the same ending.
Okay. If Lucy was written out, I don't think it would change anything. But if Patricia was written out, even though she's not in the movie as much as Lucy, it would change a lot because Patricia is integral to the whole, the murders.
Right. I think you're right.
So it does pass the Castellini, in my opinion.
Yeah, logically,
which is weird
I think it does.
With such a male-dominant cast.
Yeah, the only sticking point I have is, the older doctor ordering the younger doctor, but that could also just be not because she's a woman, but because she is younger and defers to the older doctor.
Yeah.
The more experienced doctor.
And it was a scary moment. She's trying to bring this person back to life.
Yeah, she's trying to.
And so panic, and he's just like, well, you do this. And, I think it was a case of situation, not sexism.
Right. Exactly.
So if you would like to watch this movie on your time, unfortunately, it is not streaming anywhere that we could find. But you can watch it. You can rent it. You can
do your things.
You can rent it and stream it. And it is available on Google Play, Apple TV, Fandango, and Amazon Prime. All of them. Same price this time. They got together and agreed, $3.99. Now, next week, here are your clues for next week's movie. Y'all, give me some feedback. I want to know that this is worth my time. I love doing it, and I want to keep going. But if no one's gonna try to guess, then I don't know if I'm really doing anything good here. But okay, so here are our 2 clues. The first one is that the 2 main characters, the actors did not get along. They didn't hate each other, but they didn't get along. The other clue, and this one might give it away, again, this is just a Google search away, my friends. This movie is described as romancing the Ghostbusters in the Temple of Doom. And that is my 2 clues for next week's podcast.
Great. Sounds good. So thank you for sharing this emotional experience with us while we explored The Frighteners from 1996. We'll see you in our next episode. This has been Once More with Feelings with Beth and Michelle. You can find us everywhere you listen to podcasts. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Blue Sky at OMWFPod. Visit our page at oncemorewithfeelings.podbean.com or send us an email at omwfpod@gmail.com. Take a moment to subscribe and rate us online.
Bye, everybody.
My body is a roadmap of pain.
When a man's jawbone drops off, it's time to reassess the situation.